Hello and welcome to Your Property Empire. I'm Chris Gray. On tonight's show, moving home can be a very costly exercise, especially if you're renting and need to pay a 1-month bond. So what can you do if you've got better things to do with your money and you don't want to pay that bond? But first up, the way we buy property is rapidly changing and technology is making it easier to do it from the comfort of your own home. So what are some of those changes and what is the future of property looking like? Well, joining me tonight to comment on our stories is Dick Carlson from Accrete International and Charles Tarbey, Chairman and owner of Century 21 Australasia. Now, I'm not sure if I pronounced that company name right.
Sort it out.
You're straight off the plane from Sweden. Yep. Tell us all about Accrete.
So, Chris, Accrete is a Swedish company from the beginning. We started in Sweden in 2001. Early days in real estate, poor listing presentation, and we just figured there's a gap here and a big need for a digital service to the agents. So started from an end buyer perspective, looking at their needs and basically getting them more informed coming to the open houses. Started with the 3D floor plans, went over to video, of course photography, a lot of interactive digital content over the last 16 years that we developed, and we see a lot of focus on the end user and of course the vendor getting premium money for their properties, and servicing now for 16 years more than 2,000 customers globally from that.
Actually, we've got some of your video just coming up on the screen there. Maybe talk us through some of that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of focus on the interactive because we've seen over the last 16 years pushing people, of course, over from static over to interactive. People want to interact. People want to be able to have customized, personalized content. And we've seen over the 16 years that's something that is strong from an interaction, from people really spending 5, 15, 20 minutes on site interacting with the solutions.
Now, Charles, just as Dick was saying, and Tom talks about a lot, is quite often they say anyone can sell a property, can't they? But if you want to get that premium price, do you see this is the way that you've got to go these days? Yeah,
look, it stems all the way back to the 70s where we had TVs in the windows and we had sent crews out to do videos of properties. You can well imagine what that would have been like, and the cost and the inefficiencies of it in trying to present it. The worst thing that happened to us is on a regular basis the TVs got stolen, so we had to find a new way. But it's part of it, and I think nowadays the technology that's been developed is making so much easier, and people do want to see it, they expect to see it. And what we've got to really make sure is that it's affordable to the majority, because a lot of this was pitched at the minority in the early days. And if you can do this sort of presentation for a few $100s on hundreds or thousands of properties, then you're really going to make some headway with it.
So, Dick, how are you seeing that technology is changing the way we're buying and selling property?
I mean, really, as you said, back to the 70s, but back to 2001, when, of course, print was huge. Still, print is important, but of course today, I mean, 86% is online search. So I think from that perspective, it's been, of course, pushed over to that perspective. But also from a person perspective, that looking at the last years,
We've got another one just coming up as well, so maybe talk us through that at the same time.
No, but I think from an end-user perspective, you want to have some personalized and digital content that basically allows you to imagine what you can do. Because if you look at our furnish application or a configurator perspective, that basically it's not static anymore. You want to be able to imagine what you can do with a space, not just take down a wall, but can you configure the kitchen? Can you do with the exterior? What can you do with the landscape? Those kind of services, and as you said, Charles, making it available to the public, not just to a small segment. I mean, we have 2,000 global leaders in real estate as customers, and from small agents to national players with 20, 40, 50,000 listings. I think that's perspective of utilizing from an agent perspective, but in the end, focusing on the buyer, but in the end, the vendor is happy because he will get, as you said, that premium perspective of money from that buyer that really connects to the property.
It's just another way, a more advanced way of doing the things we've always wanted to do, or we would do manually, and that's the beauty of it. I mean, you think about the developments that you undertake. If you're able to sit back and have a closer look, maybe rip a couple of walls out, you know, online before you rip them out.
Because that virtual reality is unbelievable. They're seeing it at some of the property expos as well.
Yeah, I was talking about it earlier on. The guys at realestate.com put one of those on me, got me to walk between two buildings. And I was only on the floor here, but I was walking on a plank between two buildings and it freaked me out. So it's really quite fascinating what you can do.
Yeah, and I think
it's bringing it at a price point, and I think that's the focus.
Absolutely, and availability. I think from that, technology is there, and technology is a driver, but technology cannot be there for the sake of technology.
It's wonderful.
User-friendly, customer experience, and clearly affordable.
Okay.
And how are you seeing Australia versus the overseas market? And again, I think we've got some vision from overseas as well.
So I think coming from Scandinavia and seeing the structure there, there's no VPA, there's a huge competition in that perspective. So looking at some of the agents, what we've seen is that they focus so much on their digital presence. So what we're seeing here is one of the agents in Scandinavia that has national coverage and 15,000 listings, a clear cut all through the market with the same level of, not complexity, but quality. Sorry, that's me Swedish. The quality perspective all through all their listings.
It's all right. We can't even say a word.
No, I know.
I wouldn't worry about it.
So I think from that perspective, taking it to that level of really making the listing presentation that strong. And today on their website, they're actually generating 15,000 booked meetings, vendor meetings, through their website as their #1 inquiry channel. And
rather than making 1,000 phone calls.
Yeah, but also it's getting that perspective of them coming to the agent. And they've built their own CRM, and they built a customer journey that is just amazing. So I think from that perspective, Australia is a super exciting market. We're super happy to be here. And from a perspective, as I said, a lot of them still pretty manual in some ways, but the technology is coming. And I think from a customer service perspective, you guys are doing some really exciting.
Yeah, it's there. The reason we have so many disruptors in the industry is that they've worked out that the processes we have, and there are 4 main processes in a real estate transaction, are not being done correctly by the real estate industry. So they've found an angle in. If it improves the way we do things, that's great. If they're trying to remove the agent, that's a different story altogether.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
how do you find it dealing with the Australians? Do they see you as, these are the foreigners coming in, or is it a positive thing, right, let's go and get something from Europe?
So far, knock on wood, it's been very positive.
Friendly bunch, the Australians.
Yeah. So I think from that perspective, coming from Sweden is so far a positive. It's been very exciting coming in and operating. We haven't done business yet, but I think from a perspective coming into Sydney, working with Stone, with Pete and Tim, and working with Andrew Coronas up in Brisbane, it's been really exciting to see. And also from a franchise perspective, rolling out with all of Hawking Stewart in Melbourne. So we feel from a volume, yes, affordability, yes, but also from a quality and consistency and innovation. It is really fun to see, because you have a very exciting market and very professional, again, very good pricing, obviously. So I think Sweden and Australia has very much in common when you look on the structure from a real estate perspective.
Wonderful. Sounds good. Well, we'll welcome all this technology and see what happens.
Yeah, thanks.
Charles, let's jump into your numbers. What's happening with clearance rates?
It's still pretty strong, even though it's slowing down a little bit. We're talking about the fact that we might have our first ever winter, real estate winter, in 5 years.
Well, I had it today.
No, a real winter, a real estate winter where people will slow down. The clearance rates was 74.6% on a national basis, but this time last year they were 68%, so still much better. Sydney performed at 76.2%, so that's great, and 77.3% for Melbourne. But our favourite place, Canberra, is 75.9%. So it's really still a very strong marketplace there, and continuing to move.
Right, OK. And do you see a lot of that coming off then? Are you thinking it will come into a winter?
I just think that we have a number of changes coming through, with the interest rates moving, with the regulations that's slapping on investors, with the fact that there's more stock coming on the market. We've now had 4 weeks in a row where we've had an increase in stock. There's a supply line coming through with apartments. So I think all of those things are favouring a softer market, which is really where we want to be, where we should have been a year ago, except for the interest rates having been dropped, surprising everybody.
So that probably leads us into homes advertised for sale.
Oh, right, there you go. Yeah, did I say 4 weeks in a row? It's up 0.32% over this time last week. Only a small movement, but each week it's been an upward movement. So that in itself is a really great sign to see.
Wonderful. And moving on to rent price movements.
Now, this is an interesting one. Saw an article today where agents in Brisbane are giving people gifts to go into homes. motivating to move into properties because the vacancy rates have climbed to 4.4% in Brisbane. Now, I mean, that might be high, but when you talk about vacancy rates being high, Perth's gone back over 10, it's now 10.2. Melbourne's 1.82%. The only place that's really performing very well is Sydney, and it's just over 0.8%. So the vacancy rates are fantastic, and you add the three capital cities together, you end up with about 4.07% vacancy rates. Perth is still the worrying one. We watched it decline before, it's now climbing back up again. So I think rent movements in overall, which is what you're asking me, and I've gone onto the vacancy chart, sorry about that, 0.24% back this week over the week before. And the strangest one is that the best performer is Hobart. So there you go. That's up 1.18, I'm sorry, no, Darwin, 1.18% ahead of Hobart, and Sydney went backwards at negative 0.68%. So have I really stuffed up your night with moving around the charts?
That's all right, Charles. We listened to every word.
I can't see the screens over here.
So I was just thinking, I was wondering if Chappelle Corby had changed the rental... the vacancy rate up in Brisbane. That's got to be an extra renter potentially on the market?
It's a lot more property on the market in Brisbane at the moment, yes. But it's got nothing to do with her, of course. There is an influx. Brisbane is probably the one to watch when it comes to more properties coming on the market in terms of apartments than anywhere else. That's probably the one to watch.
Wonderful. So some great numbers there. So Dick, tell us a bit more about what we might expect in Australia technology-wise.
I think from a technology, we will see, as you guys said, I mean, we will go into more of the VR and the augmented reality. We will see technology evolving through social media and to the website. But I think from a perspective, technology is one part. I think what we'll see more focus on really the end user and the vendor from a pure customer journey. I see a lot of talk about the CRM, about that perspective of offering more service. So technology will be part of that. Customer journey will be part of that. I think overall we will see leading agents taking that step upwards. And I see a lot of international collaboration in experience going forward.
Now, I assume you're not an economist, but generally what's perception of Australia from Europe? Is it seen as an expensive market, a market that's kind of getting out there?
No, I think from a perspective it's always been an exciting market, both from travelling and, I mean, in real estate. I mean, there's so many similarities between Sweden and Australia. And I think from that, it's a pretty long distance. But with that said, it is so many similarities, and it's seen as very exciting, especially from the price points you guys are having. So you have the eye of the Swedish, I can say that.
Wonderful. Well, thanks a lot for coming on, and we'll welcome you back. Charles Tarbey, thanks again.
Chris.
We're going to take a short break. We'll be back soon.
A rental property can be a rewarding investment, but even with great tenants, there'll always be life's unavoidable accidents and uncertainties. Standard building insurance may not cover damage caused by tenants or loss of rent, leaving you out of pocket. Terry Shear is Australia's leading landlord insurance specialist, with award-winning landlord insurance from $1 a day to protect your property and rental income. Call Terry Shear today or go online.
Kia Sorento is tuned for Australian conditions. It's been tested on the harshest of roads, from inner city to outback, so that ride and handling is second to none. Kia Sorento, it's made for Australia.
Filled with indulgence, Lindt creation blocks, divine hazelnut, or new salted caramel sundae. Which will you surrender to? Creation from Lindt.
You should have left years ago. Maybe. Maybe.
Same age, same income, same starting balance. 10 years ago, Sue switched to an industry super fund. Jill stayed with a retail super fund. Compare the pair.
You've still got time.
Past performance is not a reliable indicator of future performance.
The world is full of hidden treasure, just waiting to be discovered. So look a little closer and see what others don't. Join Expedia Plus Rewards today and discover member pricing and more.
The new espresso capsule from Lohr. The first aluminium capsule you can buy in your supermarket. For a gold standard of espresso, Lohr. Why pursue anything less than gold?
It's Audi season. The mid-year sales event is now on. Exceptional offers including complimentary registration, stamp duty and CTP across a range of new Audi models.
We were told we couldn't have a public vote on same-sex marriage. There'd be too much hate speech. Well, there has been. From same-sex marriage advocates. Now one of our top gay MPs says enough. On the Bolt Report, only Sky News Live.
Welcome back to Your Property Empire. Well, moving home can be a very costly exercise, especially if you're renting and you need to pay a 1-month bond. So what can you do if you've got better things to do with your money? Well, joining me on the show this evening is Michael Wood from Bonshaw. Welcome to the show, Michael. Thanks for coming on. So tell us a bit about Bonshaw, how Bonshaw works.
Right, it works because with my background being insurance, I thought it'd be good if Australian tenants could have better choices when it comes to how to pay for and protect their rental bonds. So what we did was that we came up with a product that allows tenants the option of paying their rental bond by instalments over 6 or 12 months, and at the same time helping to protect that bond while it's sitting there with the government at the Rental Bond Board against accidental damage and increased cost of cleaning. Now, that's a first for Australia. That's the first time we've had a rental bond insurance product. Now, what my thinking was that if you've got a good credit rating, you might still go and buy your car with finance. You might still buy a TV or a kitchen item of equipment with finance. But why not rental bonds? It's been a long time where everyone just has to pay up front. With no other options. So what we've come up with is, we think, something that allows someone with a good credit rating just the choice of not having to pay it up front. So if we took an example, let's say we've got a couple looking for a unit in Parramatta in Sydney. So they might say, well, we've got a good credit rating. Why do we have to pay that $2,000 up front? Why don't we spend that on that new lounge suite that we want? So they might say, well, OK. Also, remember the time that we rented last time? We didn't get all of our bond back. Yeah, why don't we take up the Bonshaw insurance as well? Now, all that's needed is that they go onto the Bonshaw website, bonshaw.com.au. They answer some questions, they get pre-approved, and then what happens is we pay the bond for them. We pay it to the estate agent or pay it direct to the government. And then at the end of that process, they start paying us. Up front, there's an initial fee, and then they pay monthly or fortnightly if they choose through that 6 or 12-month period. And then at the end of that, when there's the property inspection, if there's no accidental damage or increased cost of cleaning or any other claim by the landlord, then they get the whole bond back. If they've taken up the insurance and there is some damage, then the insurance steps in and pays above an insurance exit. And we've been absolutely tickled-pink by the response we've had. Obviously, it's resonating with a lot of renters because we've had thousands of applicants per month. Yeah.
Because I guess if you're a young person, you're trying to move out of home, we see property prices rising, rents are rising as well. So if you've got a month up front, plus you've got a month's bond...
Yes, that's right.
And then you've got to furnish the property for the first time,
yeah, it's an expensive exercise. I think some people forget that it is, and it's a bit stressful. What we're hoping is that, if anything, we can take some of that stress out of the process. And if we can make renting a little friendlier, then perhaps that's good for the property investors as well.
I'm a renter as well, so I'm all for
really?
that.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, tell us, what is bond erosion, and is it a big thing in Australia?
Yeah, it is, actually. Certainly, according to the research we've done. We looked at some statistics that the Rental Bond Board of New South Wales produced for 2014-15. and they showed that only 47% of renters in New South Wales for that year got back all of their bond. So that means...
So that's what it is, the erosion is not getting your bond back?
Yes, that's right.
Right.
Now, not getting your bond back can be through a number of different factors. It might be that you've not paid your rent. It might be that you've not paid an electricity bill or water bill or something like that. But also we see a lot of instances where there is bond erosion through just simple accidents, accidental damage, and often at the end of a lease there might be arguments over whether it's damage or cleaning. That's why we cover both, so we don't end up declining indemnity because someone says, oh no, it's cleaning, not damage. So yes, we think that the bond insurance can really help renters there.
Big market. So let's get on to some of the costs of it. So say you need a bond insurance for, say, $2,000. Roughly what's that going to cost? Roughly, up front, there'll be a payment for a $2,000 bond over 12 months. There'll be an upfront payment of $175 and then roughly $50 a week. And that will cover the principal that has to be repaid, the interest, and also the insurance premium, if that's added in there as well. So it's almost like a regular loan with a regular insurance payment as well? Yeah, that's right. Yeah. OK, makes sense. Now, I guess, because I'm a landlord as well as a tenant, should I be worried if my tenants can't afford to pay the bond? Does that mean they're going to be fairly dodgy tenants that can't afford the rent after 2 or 3 months? It's interesting. It's a good question, because when I first did a bit of market research, when I came up with the idea, I spoke to some agents and they said, oh, Michael, if they can't... Exactly as you said. But no, when I explained the product, particularly the insurance side, and also, most critically, the fact that we do an online vet for creditworthiness, and as well as doing the identity check, they said, oh, that's great, actually. I think the two things that they really honed in on after that initial scepticism, perhaps, they said, well, actually, the good thing is you're effectively a second set of eyes for us. Our property managers, they're so busy, but you're going in there, you're checking their creditworthiness as well. So if anything, like a Bonshaw-approved applicant, it might be just what those landlords want. So it could be like the lender's mortgage insurance, effectively? Yeah. They've got a harsher serviceability criteria than quite often the banks. They do, they do. So it gives the bank some, extra comfort. And here I think the estate agents will say, well, that's great, because whilst we do some checks, they might check that they've got a job, we go further, we do a full credit check. Right. So I think it is an extra set of eyes. I think is good for property investors, landlords. So in terms of the renters, what are the key benefits? Obviously, there's that cash flow perspective. Yeah, the cash flow. That's a big thing. As we said, it's a pretty expensive exercise. I think they also like the fact that they can have the access to this rental insurance product. There's a certain amount of education we have to do with renters whenever it comes to insurance, but we try and do so through our website. And the third thing is that it's quite simple, it's fast process, it's all online, and I think that's great for both the renters and the estate agents, because the estate agents don't have to do anything really. So apart from check that the property details are correct, the bond goes into their account. And so, as a property investor, should I be ideally wanting one of these? So what are the benefits if someone does come with a bond? And actually, would I even know if it's paid through you or direct anyway? No. Normally it's through the estate agent. So the estate agent always says, can't hand over those keys till we have the bond. So you go online, we then send the money straight through to the estate agent's trust account. That's the only thing we need from the estate agent is their trust account. In fact, in New South Wales, we send it straight through to the government under their new system. Right, but in other states, we do need the trust account details. Yeah. So, yeah, but I think that it actually is good for the investors, because if we can take some of the stress out of renting, and then it's good for the investor. They want people who want to rent their properties, so if we can make that a little less stressful, then more people hopefully will be renting. I think the other thing is that the property investor would like to think that the tenant that's going into their property might be Bonshaw approved because of that extra credit check that we've done. Yeah. So interesting. It's amazing how things change within real estate, and you've got to open your eyes to what the true picture is all about. Yeah, well, it's always an evolving wheel, if you like, yeah. Now, obviously, you said you've had thousands of people come along already, so are you going to be getting people like mortgage brokers saying, hey, well, we should be doing some business, or buyer's aid, or whatever else, because you've got such a big database of people? I think over time we'll be developing a very big database. So, yes, we've made that connection.
And it would be nice if we can get the trust of that renter during his rental period. Every renter, I guess, is a potential first home buyer.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we could look at doing that ourselves, or perhaps partnering with a credible lender, and we can offer that service to our loyal customers. Yeah, that'd be
right.
good.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what about the real estate industry? Because agents aren't always, they don't have the best reputation for liking change or doing extra work.
Yeah.
So how are they taking
That's
it?
why we intentionally made it so that they have to do as little work as possible. They've got enough on their plate. So we talk to them and we explain to them that this is very much tenant-driven. The tenant goes online, the tenant does it. All we need from them is to register with us. So if a tenant comes in and says, oh, Mr. Estate Agent, I want to use Bondsure to pay my bond, all that's required is that they give us their trust account details. That's all that's required. Then they get the money, hand over the keys, and, yeah.
Right, okay. Now, obviously, with the insurance side of this is one thing that I hadn't thought of before, because an average tenant can't really insure himself against getting the bond back. And so, is this something that you've got to get the rental bond or the Bondsure thing to get the insurance, or could you take the insurance out as well?
No, you can take either. So you can, in fact, we've got three products. We've got the loan funding, we've got the rental bond insurance, that's the accidental damage and increased cost of cleaning, and then we've actually got a second insurance, which is contents insurance.
Right.
2/3 of renters around Australia don't insure their contents.
Yeah.
So we've got that in there as well. But no, if you decide to pay your the bond up front, but you still want the insurance, as long as it's before the commencement of the tenancy, you can just take the insurance.
Yeah.
The only thing we need is, obviously, at the beginning of that insurance, we need to rely on the fact that there's been an inspection.
Right.
In due course, we'll probably try to introduce it mid-term, but it would be still dependent on that estate agent having made an inspection.
Wonderful. Well, thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks
Certainly good to hear about some new products.
Thanks a lot.
Now, thanks for joining us at home as well this evening. Until next week, I'm Chris Gray. Good night.
The information featured in this program is general in nature and therefore should not be relied upon. Guests appearing on the program may have commercial arrangements with some of the companies mentioned. Before making any investment, insurance or financial planning decisions, you should consult a licensed professional who can advise whether your decision is appropriate for you.